Welcome back to the Mind and Muscle Beyond 40 podcast. This is really exciting because today we're not just talking about strengthening your body and mind, but we're actually talking about investing in the armor that you need to wear your journey with pride. And I'm actually talking to the woman today who is literally hand pressing her way into the future of basically over 40s well-being. The incredible Vanessa Ridout from the Epiphany Closet. She's joining me today, and I'm so excited. We've got a wonderful chat planned for you because we've realized that aging strong is a two-part story, isn't it? You're looking after your mind and your body, but you're also taking care of yourself and really leaning into self-love. So we're going to chat about that. And Vanessa is here to chat with me about her own journey as a founder, how she started the Epiphany Closet, and what led her to the moment of deciding to push through into that. But we are basically combining the art of aging strong with the power of self-love just in time for International Women's Day. And we are collaborating, and we'll share more about that in a while. But this is really interesting because we met for the first time in 2024 in Manchester at a networking event, and I think we just hit it off. Where are we now? 2 years later, we've decided to do this podcast together, and it's really exciting because we've got a lot to share. We've got a lot in common. We're going to chat about menopause today. I want to chat as well about the invisible woman myth because it's such a huge myth amongst women in our age group. And, I want to talk about the fact that our best years aren't behind us. And so we are collaborating to bring you this podcast. I'm so excited. Vanessa, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So good to have you here.
Good
She's
to be
rocking
here.
the Epiphany Closet. Look at that jumper. And I am also rocking my newly branded Epiphany Closet vest. This is my staple piece for the gym. So I'm so excited to be branded when I walk around the gym.
It looks good.
Yeah, it's great. So if you're new to the Mind and Muscle Beyond 40 podcast, welcome. This is a podcast where we cover 5 different pillars of what it takes to age strong and to take care of yourself mentally, physically, hormonally. So we look at topics like nutrition, biohacking, mindset, muscle, and obviously also hormonal health. But this podcast for me is also a channel to bring you incredible women like Vanessa who have a passion for helping women over 40, and not just women over 40, but women in general, to really just lean into self-love and to really just celebrate ourselves a bit more. So thank you for joining us, and make sure that you subscribe. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button, and let's get into it, shall we? So I'm curious, what was the point where you decided the specific moment when you realized that you wanted to start your own business? So the moment from thinking, I should do this, to actually pressing full send. Can you tell us about that?
To be honest, even in my 20s, when I was still having children, really wanted to. I've never liked working for somebody particularly. I've always wanted to be my own boss. I think it's just because I believe in time autonomy. And even in my 20s, I wanted to create something that I could work around having children. And obviously things change, you can never predict what's going to happen. And then I had a hysterectomy in my late 30s, which led to some like complete body changes. So,
Wow.
and complete mindset changes like we were talking about then.
Yeah.
So going into a corporate world, having to sort of provide for my children, I realized I just wasn't particularly enjoying what I was doing. I wasn't really respected. Personally, it was, how I say it, there was a lot of internal misogyny in my workplace. So,
Wow.
and obviously going through menopause at such a young age, handling that and trying to explain that to your colleagues and your employers is so hard. So I
So
just thought I
young.
need
My
to get,
goodness.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
I needed to get out, but I couldn't afford to do that. It was just a case of just pushing through, creating a business while I was still working. And I literally had an epiphany, and that was the moment. I think something had happened in my life, and I think this is going to sound really strange, but I think my cat died. It was really weird. Very,
Wow.
very precious animal to me, a very
Yeah.
gorgeous Persian cat. And I find it quite funny telling the story, but I think I've had a lot of grief. I've dealt with grief in life. So this was just to some people an animal, but it actually made me wake up in the middle of the night. And I just thought, what am I doing? I feel really sad about this. I feel really unhappy. I feel unhappy in my job. I need to make a change. So I did. I just created the Epiphany Closet. And you know what? Sometimes you go around the houses to think, well, I've got to get the proper brand name. I really want this to be perfect. And actually, I had my epiphany, and many people said, "Oh, I don't know, it's a bit long for a business." I just needed to do it, and I thought Epiphany Closet clothing, and yeah, I've never thought of changing it ever. I've always been really comfortable with it. So yeah, I'm really pleased
It's
that
got
I had
such a
that
lovely
epiphany.
ring to it.
Thank you.
It really does. And obviously, you know, the whole idea of wearing your feelings and what's sitting on your heart, on your chest, I just
Mm,
absolutely love that. And being
yeah.
able to go to your closet to bring those feelings out, that's even better. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's a hard one to explain to people. You know, when people put a Nike hoodie on, you know, I mean, there's plenty of other well-known brands that I could reference, but you are putting on something that has a slogan and a meaning and that's been going for many years. Whereas something, when you start a small brand like this, it's really hard to get started, and actually it's also really hard to have the confidence to know that your brand is worthy. You know, it's a hard to do.
I think being self employed and starting any sort of business, especially as a woman, is really difficult to build up that self confidence of pushing forward into an area that's completely new to you.
Mm,
And then you do that, in your case, while you were doing that while you were facing these incredible hormonal changes and having kids as well. There's
mm.
a lot of balls in the air at that point, isn't there? So that's
Yeah.
what a journey.
It's not easy. I think also financially, I had to sort of stay in
Hmm.
my job until I could get the funds together to be able to like take that leap and leave a full-time job, you know, as the
Yeah,
provider. Very
yeah,
difficult.
yeah. So what year was this when you actually started the Epiphany Closet?
Gosh, I think it was 2023. I think I thought about it. Yeah, it's been 3 years in the sort of space of creating it, but actually launched January 2024. Yeah, January.
And
It was on my birthday.
because I remember us talking about this. So you and I met in August 2024,
Mm,
a networking event in Manchester, and big shout out to Fiona from the Right Field. She launched a business called The Beauty and the Brand, which is essentially an opportunity for women in business to network and to have fun together.
mm,
So Fiona and Roxy created this event in Manchester, and I jumped on the train with my friend Joe, went up there, and there was a fitness element to it, which was really exciting. And then there was a networking event in the evening. So, yeah, we met each other that evening, had a fantastic time. I mean, there were many drinks. There was so many drinks. There was a catwalk
standard.
as well. I remember the catwalks, but it was so great. And I think one of the things that struck me most about you since when I met you for the first time was just your warmth and your heart for women and
Mm,
just the genuine care and authenticity. Whenever I see a post of yours on Instagram and whenever I think of the Epiphany Closet, always I can sense and I can feel that warmth. And, you know, whenever I've ordered clothes from you, and I'll share my sweater in a minute, I'm so excited about that. But whenever I wear it, it's almost like I can feel your love that you put into your business through the clothing and through your presence. Sorry. So, yeah, so I just remember being really comfortable when we met each other. And then we just started talking about everything and realized that, you know, it's so important for women to understand their worth. And it
yeah.
makes me really sad. And I'm reading a book at the moment that talks a lot about self-worth and how self-worth is not the same as self-esteem, because self-esteem is something you feel, whereas self-worth is something you know in your heart. And I feel like, you know, it's that we could probably chat about that for days. But yeah, it just felt really easy when we met. And, you know, fast forward all this time later, and now we've both got businesses that really focus on empowering women from my point of view with Mind and Muscle Beyond 40, physically and mentally. And from your perspective, you know, the mindset and the community and that
Yeah.
self-love. I think it's so great to see how things have grown since we met.
Yeah.
It's
It
great.
it is. I mean, there was such a bunch of women, and that was my
Mm.
first ever like networking event. So to go up, you know, alone and just walk into a room, and you know, it was completely sort of out of my comfort zone. And obviously, only having been in business for 6 months or say, but yet we were so welcomed. And I just remember you walking
Mm.
in, and I just remember saying to a lady I didn't know on the table, I was like, I like that lady's dress.
I looked
And
like a
that's
mermaid. I
it
was
was like
wearing a
a
dress.
mermaid.
It had literally
And
little
you.
shells on it that vibrated when I walked. It was ridiculous, but it was party wear, so you know.
It was. No, it was stunning. And I think, like you said, we connected straight
Mm.
away, as we did with most of the women that stayed till the evening. But I think, yeah, I think you're right. I think you just get that warmth. You just know who you're going to
Mm.
connect with in life, don't you? And
Yeah.
I think when you have the idea of when someone is empathic, and you, like you say, excuse me, and like you say, the warmth, I think that just comes naturally for me around
Mm,
people. I just like making people
mm,
feel comfortable.
mm,
And actually, for that to resonate through clothing, I probably don't shout about it enough. But so many people say, like,
mhm.
your hoodie is like wearing a hug. Your
Yeah, yeah,
clothing there's so much personal, and that's why I'm a personal brand, rather than a
yeah.
huge brand that's trying to make it across the world.
That's it. And I want to touch on this because we actually chatted about this last night. So let's just mention it. As a small business serving women all over the world, our aim is to make people feel seen.
Mm,
And when I coach women, whether it's in my group coaching program or one to one, they come to me with the challenges they are facing. And very often they
mm,
just want someone to listen. It's
yeah.
not, I don't always just talk about protein, even though I talk about protein a lot. The fact of the matter is, we are serving these women in a way that is so special, and it's so authentic. And that is not something that you get from bigger brands. And we basically, the reason I bring this up now is if you're a employed woman, you'll understand this. We work very hard to create the content. We show up in a way that makes women feel seen, and we try to offer up what it is that we get really passionate about. But it's so hard nowadays to actually get your content out there and to actually reach the people that you want to reach, just
Mm,
because of the nature of social media. And obviously, there is so much out there, it's almost overwhelming. But
mm.
I just wanted to mention this. If you're listening to this podcast or you're watching this on YouTube, you need to hit that button. You need to click subscribe or like, because we are sat here as two self-employed women over 40. So we are facing all the battles right now. Okay.
Yeah,
But we are just here to create what we love and to create things that help you. Yeah,
I
I
also
think what I'm trying
think,
to say is just don't just watch and consume content from women like
yeah.
us. Support us because we are here to support you.
And that's where I think that it makes me a little bit sad about it all. When you come together and you do things visually and you actually meet people in person, it's so amazing. You've got that connection, and you're trying to get that across on your social media. Like, so for me, Instagram is my key area of community. But actually, what we're seeing is women are just going online because they're scrolling through to get the support, like you say. Then when you do finally connect with somebody, like you said a minute ago, I actually get women talking to me about their personal life, and I've made so many friends. And actually, I can name the first 4 people that are going to comment on my and they're all people that I would happily meet in person, because they put so much, not just the finances into buying from my business. They are fully supportive of me. And there's a saying that goes at the moment: you're getting more support from Instagram strangers, which I don't like to call them that, than you are your own friends and family. And let's be honest, they're all there at the beginning going tap, 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 like, share, share, share. Now they're all like, oh, not another boring post.
Yeah,
It's really
it's an
sad
actual
because they're
thing.
working so hard.
They always say, you've made it when, it's not just your family and friends kind of buying from you, commenting on your content. So, to be honest, that is one of the reasons I started this podcast, because I want to create a wider footprint. I want to be able to reach women far and wide. And I think that is, that's where the joy comes from, isn't it? But it's frustrating and it's hard. And actually, this is a very nice segue into us chatting a little bit about menopause and
Yeah.
perimenopause. We are in different, stages. 43 this year? 44? I don't know. Yeah,
I
somewhere on there.
think
But
I
I am in
can't
the
say,
thick
I
of
won't say.
but I'm in the thick of perimenopause, and it's also what inspired me to launch Mind and Muscle Beyond 40 last year, because
Mm,
everything changed when I turned 40. From my own perspective, being a very fit, active, healthy, strong woman, always been into weight training, not always, but at least for the last, 20 years, everything changed in the way that I have to take care of myself. And I don't think I quite realized that until last year was the year that basically broke me. But it's being put in situations like that where you realize the value of actually taking time for yourself, but also that it's okay to feel certain things. And then lastly, having the support system around you for you to be able to cope with these situations. And you and I have had many chats about this. But I think what's interesting for me with our conversation is we're coming at this from two different perspectives. I have chosen not to have children.
mm.
So I have a very cute little mini schnauzer, and that's the extent of my motherhood. But I feel like sometimes this is something we chatted about as well. There still is that stigma around women who have chosen not to have children, and so it's easier for us. And when it comes to perimenopause and hormonal, changes, etc., I guess it's true in a sense that I don't have those other responsibilities, but I struggle just as much in terms of showing up for my business, taking care of myself, dealing with the emotions and the highs and the lows. So I guess, do you want to share a little bit about your journey with menopause and
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be said about like what we spoke about the other day. Yes, I have 4 children. I've been on my own with them for quite a few years now. 2 adults, 4 adults, 2 still live with me. But it is hard, but like we spoke about, it's hard either way. So whether you're waking up and feeling unmotivated, unlike yourself, which is absolutely fine and okay, whether you're functioning to provide for your family or whether you're functioning to show up, to me, it all roots down to the same thing. We're all struggling with admitting that sometimes we don't cope. And I think there's a huge stigma of, and I would be the first one to hold my
mm,
hands up to this, about masking behavior, which is
mm,
quite a huge thing in menopause, because a lot of people that suffer with ADHD mask it, that don't know they have ADHD, that then it shows even more in perimenopause and menopause.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
my journey compared to someone without having children, I would say, I think however you wake up and whatever your stressors are, say stressors, mostly are, love them dearly when they see this. You're still facing the same day. I mean, let's not quote that Molly May quote of 20, that everyone's got the same 24 hours in the same day. But let's be honest, life brings challenges, whether you've got kids or not. And
mm,
to be honest, having gone through menopause for coming up 14 years, I just think, when's it ending? When's it ending? I'm sure
mm,
my kids are
mm.
saying, when is it ending? You
And
know,
they're in different stages. So,
yeah, yeah. And do you know what
yeah.
the thing is? There is no, do you know, the biggest thing I would say to anyone listening to this is every day is different. And
Mm,
I've tried
mm.
all sorts of medication. I would love to say I should be doing more fitness, but unfortunately, sometimes I don't feel like it. Sometimes I haven't got the get up and go.
Yeah, I think that's something really important that you've hit on there because I've had this conversation with a lot of the ladies in my group coaching program. In fact, the most recent conversation was I just don't understand what is wrong with me.
Mm,
I just can't seem to get my arse into gear.
mm.
And that is a narrative that is again there's a lot of blame, isn't there? We blame ourselves. We just can't seem to, but it's just not that simple because you're not feeling yourself. And there's a lot to be said for, yes, you should motivate yourself, give yourself a little pep talk, but it doesn't work. It doesn't
It
always
it doesn't
work.
work, and do you know the biggest thing that I'm actually quite into biohacking in certain areas myself. Don't get me wrong, there's ways in my lifestyle I need to change. But the key thing here, and if I could get a microphone and stand on the top of a Parliament building and say this, if you don't get your element of your body where you are starting your day off without cortisol and stress, you are just going to spiral into the binge eating, the cravings, and honestly, I
Mhm,
feel like I could write a book on it. And
mhm,
I'm not even
mhm,
nutritionally trained,
mhm,
but I'm old enough and wise enough to know what
mhm.
makes my day start well. Like I've started taking creatine,
Game changer.
a few weeks ago, a few months ago, and I take protein, I take collagen, magnesium, all of the stuff you can imagine.
Mm,
MCT oils,
mm,
I could be plugging will powders here. Um,
love that.
but do you know what? And the thing is, and I was on top of my game, and then you just forget to take one day, then there's a slippery slope.
Mhm.
When something in your life will be causing you stress or you're
Yeah.
feeling emotional, and then it's a downward spiral. Imagine how many women are going through that right now from 30, potentially 36 up until 60, 60 odd. It's really
I think
sad.
it is, and I think it's really important that you've mentioned that. Firstly, all of those supplements are the supplements that I'm shouting about in my program all the time. I love it. You've basically ticked all of them off. Creatine, so important,
Yeah.
not just for physical, but for brain health. Oh
No,
my goodness, so
absolutely.
important. But the second thing you've mentioned there is the age. When I went to see the GP for the first time, when I just wasn't feeling like myself and I was noticing changes in my body and just skin drying, hair thinning, all of these things. And she basically straight up just said to me, "You're too young." And I kind of thought, well, no, I might be too young for the average, but ultimately lifestyles, and there's so many reasons that women go into perimenopause earlier now, and you should be open to having these conversations. So the one thing I will say while we're on the topic is you need to advocate for yourself. You know
Yeah.
your body better than anyone else. If you're not feeling yourself, please keep track of what's going on with your body. And I actually have a free symptom tracker if you go onto the website that you can download and print out and just use. But the point is, it's noticing the things that are changing your body over time. So when I went to see her the second time, I had about, I don't know, 6, 8 months worth of notes that I kept. And I could almost like not just show her and go, see, I told you,
Mm.
but it was to see, okay, these things are getting better or worse. And then if you are going to start HRT, it helps to keep track of how you're feeling, because that is in itself is an experimentation. So you need to
Oh.
be open to experimenting, number one. And number two,
Mm.
know that there's no one size fits all approach. And number three, the form of HRT that works for someone else might not work for you.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
actually,
just,
do you know, having tried, because I have my ovaries and my uterus removed, but I still have my cervix, quite happy to talk about it. I've tried all sorts of HRT. I'm permanently on estrogen now. I was told to come off progesterone because the uterine lining was safe. So you trust everything that you hear. And, there's so many professional celebrities that are talking about it. Even there's conflicting opinions. But you know what? If there's one thing that I do need to practice it rather than preach it. And you know this is what your whole MMB40 is about. Getting out in the fresh air, vitamin D, exercise. When I don't
move your
exercise,
body. Yeah,
oh yeah, moving,
move it.
just moving, just taking the
Mm,
dog out for a walk for half an
mm,
hour
mm.
can change your whole day. And that's where I think when my clothes came into it, because I just thought I'm working from home a lot. I'm in my loungewear a lot. I want people to feel comfortable.
Yeah,
Not everybody is going out to work all suited and booted.
yeah.
And that's where the affirmations came in of,
Mm.
same as your business and all the positivity that comes from that, from MMB40, is the same as how I feel in people wearing their clothes. Once you feel comfortable for your day and you start your
That's
day
it.
well,
Yeah.
you're
Your
laughing.
morning routine is
Yeah.
one of the key things. And one of the biggest things I find with the women that I work with is the lack of a morning routines. What you were saying about cortisol is so true. And
Mm,
unfortunately for us, it leads to a plethora of other issues, i.e., belly fat and things like that, which then
yeah.
has a knock-on effect to our confidence. And it's a vicious circle. But the point is, it's not really just someone saying to you, oh, you need to manage your stress. You need to put into place systems that help you cope better with whatever happens the rest of the day.
Mm,
So if you start your day with a little walk, fresh air, some vitamin D, or just some meditation, or whatever your form of mindset work is, I can honestly tell you, if I don't sit down in the morning, I usually get up around 5 and then do a few stretches because I'm a long, tall Sally. So if I don't, I know about it. And then I'll go downstairs, do some reading and just do some affirmations and things like that. When I don't do that, and what you were saying before about not doing something for a day or two,
yeah.
I know about it. Immediately something will set me off, or I'll find the day, there'll be a reason why I don't feel as in control as I normally would. So it's putting these into place that's important, but also knowing that you can always come back to it. So when you fall off the wagon, so to speak,
Mm,
because that's the other thing we struggle with. We feel guilty all the time.
yeah.
I'm failing again. I didn't do that thing again. Again, I didn't get to the gym 3 times a week. So one
We're
of the
so
big things that
unkind
I
to
shout about is
ourselves.
celebrating the little things. If you did
Yeah,
one thing
sorry.
today, celebrate it, right?
Absolutely. I think at the beginning of the business, I was doing a lot of quotes and sending affirmation cards out with all of the products, because so many
Mm,
women were struggling with their self-worth and actually
mm.
just practicing gratitude every day. I teach my children that, don't wake up and feel entitled that your day is going to be okay. This is where it all stems from. We're not entitled to have those feelings of self-worth and your expectations be met, because they're not. You have to
Exactly.
work really hard for it.
Yeah, it's a blessing. And it's something that was reinforced for me again last year when I lost my mum. And I realized,
Mhm.
not even because our parents get older and we realize that, it's part of life,
Yeah,
grief, but navigating grief, even at this stage, is forcing me to look at everything with a fresh perspective.
yeah,
And, there are days when everything goes wrong and I think, oh, what is the point of any of this? And then I sit and I close my eyes and I go, but you get to be here
yeah,
and you get to do this thing and you get to experience the sunrise tomorrow. So it's
yeah.
that change of perspective that's so important, which is why I love what the Epiphany Closet stands for, because it's that positive reinforcement all the time. The
Yeah.
only difference is it's on a cute sweater or a piece of clothing that makes you feel amazing. So it's twofold, isn't it? Because the
Yeah.
mindset part for us as we navigate, menopause, perimenopause, it's your mind that can either be your biggest enemy or your biggest ally.
Yeah, well, I mean, I used to read the book called The Chimp, and oh gosh, it's so true. We've permanently got the little chimp sitting on our shoulder saying, "Oh, you don't look nice today." I mean, I woke up the other day, I was like, "Oh my gosh, the state of my hair." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Stop talking to yourself so negatively."
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it to any of my friends.
Exactly. You wouldn't say it to a friend.
You wouldn't. And it's all
Yeah.
over Instagram and it's all over
Yeah.
social media. But we still
Yeah.
do it. We're still critical to ourselves. But it's been inbred into us from such a young age
Yeah.
that skinny, I mean, that's not necessarily an appropriate word, but let's be
Mm.
honest. Skinny
Smaller.
was,
Smaller is
you
better.
know, but in our day, that's what it was, wasn't it? Skinny
Mm-hmm.
looked better.
Mm.
But
Mm.
now we're moving on to finding a bit more comfort within ourselves. But it's just
Yeah.
about getting that balance. Being
Yeah.
body confident
Yeah.
can come across as people not caring what they look like, and then actually you're not really in a very healthy zone just because you're feeling body confident. It's just about getting a balance.
It is, and it's being honest with yourself. And body image is something that I've navigated in my own life for years, having gone through a journey of being really overweight and having grown up with a mum that would say things to me about my weight, and I still haven't forgotten those things. You never do.
Oh yeah, my nan used to tell me what lovely chunky thighs I've got.
Hey, big thighs save lives, man.
Exactly. Bonnie segs, they used to call them, and I'm proud of them. I've got netball legs.
I tell you what, they're going to serve you well when you're older.
Exactly. Exactly.
But no, I think it's loving yourself enough to be able to focus on your positives and knowing that you don't have to be perfect. None of us are perfect. And I'm actively trying to embrace the things that is part of naturally getting older.
Mm,
Yes, I drink collagen. It's great. I still got wrinkles. The lines around the eyes still happening, but I do the things now that I think will serve me when I'm 80. So things like that. You mentioned biohacking, doing these things now because I know my 80-year-old self will thank me for that. And
mm,
that is, again, the reason why I started MMB40. Aging strong, who cares about being skinny? I don't want to be a frail old lady. I
no.
want to be strong. I want to be able to carry all my own shopping when I'm 80?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's changing that narrative. And I'm really grateful that, there are women like us out there flying the flag for that. And there is a lot of content on that on social media. So it's definitely become a lot more common knowledge that we need to take better care of ourselves and age strong, which is exactly why we're doing this episode. So one thing that I did want to mention was, we chatted last night a little bit about the sort of invisible woman myth. And it's something that is so prevalent for me, especially when women turn 40 and they head into their 50s and 60s, starting to feel like you're actually becoming invisible
Mm,
and that you don't matter. When in reality, if framed correctly, if you can change your mindset and surround yourself with women who lift you up and are saying things like this to you, you will realize that your 40s, your 50s, your 60s can be an incredible season of power and strength if you embrace it and you figure out how to work with your body, not against it. And one of those things is your self-worth and your self-esteem. So doing things that make you feel better, i.e. wearing a jumper that makes you feel like you love yourself,
yeah,
reinforcing that.
absolutely. Yeah,
But
no,
yeah,
yeah. I think it's really, I think you've just hit a really good point. I think the trouble is we were conditioned to not shrink. Well, yeah, shrink. We were meek women, we're coming into a new generation now where, and bringing into the International Women's Day where it sort of links with give to gain. We want to give back to people. We
yeah,
know what we're doing is right. We know, you and I know where to go and what to do.
hmm
But there's so many people that don't. And actually, you hit on something then we talked about, skinny was a trend. I know women that are really slim and slight. And they're desperate to get bulkier. They're desperate to look after their body. And
yeah,
they can't because it's just how their frame is. But it just goes to show, I generally think you hit 40 and your 40s and you just start. It is about mindset. It's
yeah,
all about
yeah,
wisdom. You gain wisdom and you
you
start
do.
making different journey.
You do. And I think the sooner you lean into, so part of the group coaching program that I've got, every morning I drop a little daily affirmation into the group at 6 a.m. So it's kind of like
Mm,
listen to it, don't listen to it. But if you listen to it, you'll feel great. But this morning's affirmation was all around growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And it's something that I've spoken about so much, even before I launched the business, because I'm grateful for my husband. He's basically a growth mindset junkie. So he got me into it. But over the years, I've realized that if you have a perspective where you see every challenge as an opportunity, or you reframe what you're looking at. So instead of saying, I'm too old to build muscle, you reframe it to say that I need to change the way that I'm doing things so I can build muscle. So it's kind of not seeing everything as fixed. And I see this on a weekly basis. So I teach a strength class on a Monday night. And when I see these women, most of the women in my class are 45 plus, I'd say, a few are a bit younger, but a lot of the women who come will say similar things to me every week about their bodies, about how they're feeling, about the exhaustion. And then we have a little bit of a conversation where I try and help them. But the main thing is not their bodies. It's their mindset.
Yeah.
It's the fact that they feel stuck and they can't quite see a way of getting out of it. And so you and I both know in doing what we do, the only way to get unstuck is to do something. But very often it's just not that obvious. So again, I'm loving the fact that with International Women's Day as well, I love the fact that what we're creating is we are giving these women the tools to take better care of themselves. And it doesn't have to cost you heaven and earth. Small tweaks make a big difference.
Well, I think the trouble is we were talking about what people are spending their money on. And when you think about HRT, mostly is free for most people. And if you can get on it or if you need it, then it's certainly a start to where you need to get into programming how you feel. Before we just head on to the International Women's Day thing and coming together, I really wanted to share something that I think is not shared enough. I mean, it probably is by celebrities, but I am I'm really hopeful that people like us get heard, because we are actually living in it and can tell the stories rather than reading from a textbook. You're born with estrogen in your body and progesterone and testosterone, all of the hormones that you need. You're born with a level thyroid function. Now, what women aren't seeing is what they're going through in menopause, when your eggs are decreasing and your body's declining, you're aging, so you're depleting it all, so you're losing all of it. So this is, even some of my friends didn't even know that that's what menopause was. They didn't know that they didn't have estrogen anymore. They didn't know that they haven't got progesterone. And
we didn't have these conversations when we were younger, did we? Our generation. Yeah.
But it's crazy to think that women still don't know that what our body is doing and aging. We're
What's
not
happening
getting
hormonally.
Just because our skin's aging. It's because you're losing all the hormones that you're born with. You're now losing them. By the time you're 60, you'll have none in your body. Now that's quite scary, and that's why we need to look after and supplement ourselves. Not just in NHS. I'm not just plugging NHS like HRT, because you can do it. A lot of women can do it naturally as well.
I honestly, we've come a long way with HRT as well, being told way back then, not us necessarily, but previous generations being told that it was dangerous and that it was linked to cancer, etc. There's so much research out now that actually proves that to be incorrect. But not just that, the fact that there are benefits for brain health.
Yes.
And if you've come from a family where there's any kind of history of cognitive decline, I cannot state this, would really encourage you to look at HRT. And one of the biggest things that I've found in all the different research that I've done for the program is to start earlier, to not wait for the car to go off the cliff before you actually start. Because at that point, what you've just said is so right. Why are you waiting until the very end of whatever estrogen you've got left before you start it? Why not phase it in sooner so that it's a smoother ride instead of falling off a cliff and then you try and manage what's happened? So I think it's nice that we've had a very honest conversation about that, because, I went on to HRT when I was 42, which is very young. But at the same time, I knew that I had to do something, and I knew that I had to at least find a route that would not just preserve my brain, but also bone density. We don't think about those things. But when you lose estrogen, you start losing more muscle, bone density, and all of those things. So again, it's thinking about yourself when you're in your 80s.
I did a walk with the Menopause Mandate in October 23 with Carol Vorderman and a few other, I think Lisa Snowdon was there and some other celebrities. And it was really lovely. It was when it was all going to Parliament, and, we were starting to get talked about more. And like you said earlier, HRT it's not one size fits all, but the sooner we don't sit in denial about it and start acting on it before it happens,
Yeah.
the better. I mean, we could shout that from the rooftops. I
We
mean,
should,
luckily it
we
is
should
all
do
over the
another
place.
episode just on HRT.
I know, it would. Yeah, I mean, I'm not medically trained, but after being years
Yeah.
going through it, I know what works and I know what doesn't for me
Yeah.
personally.
And to be honest, I think I've learned so much over the last year. I think so. I decided to qualify as a menopause coach last year, and oh my goodness, I thought my brain would explode with everything
Mm,
I've learned. And that also then, tied in with not just what you were saying about natural changes to your lifestyle, what you're eating, how you're moving.
yeah,
I posted content yesterday about macronutrients. A lot of women don't even know what macronutrients are. And
no,
so it's kind of taking a very grassroots approach at how we educate women. So, and again, that's why it's so nice to collaborate with the Epiphany Closet on what we're doing for International Women's Day, because we are taking the theme of aging strong, we're combining
yeah.
it with self-love, and we are shouting it from the rooftops, basically. So I did want to mention one thing before we should really have closed my inbox because now it's pinging. Fantastic. I do want to mention one thing before we move on to just chatting about our collaboration for International Women's Day. One of the big things that you and I are champions of is a hands-on approach, making women feel seen and just doing things that make people feel special, not just being mass media, mass produced, whatever. So your big thing is obviously designing and pressing everything
Mm,
yourself, which is, I can imagine, just incredible from a work point of view. But basically, adding that layer of soul to your products is what makes them so special. And at this point, I would like to share this beautiful, I don't know if you can see the color properly, but it's lavender and it's stunning.
it is gorgeous. It does look lovely.
So I've got branded MMB40 sweaters, people. This is insane. And this lavender for spring, I'm going to be swanning around in it everywhere. But the quality of this, and it's so soft. And I put it on the other day and I didn't want to take it off. And I just thought, I kind of want to save it, but I probably just want like 5 different ones, different colors. But it looks incredible. So you and I are collaborating, but I just wanted to give you a massive shout out because the level of care and attention you take on these products, and obviously the vest as well, the level of printing, the detail, the quality,
Mm,
incredible. Love it.
thank you. Yeah, it's definitely something I pride myself on. I think it's so much out there, and there's so much competition. And do you know what? I've actually stopped trying to compete because
Yeah,
the people that are in your community are the people that stay and know your brand. You know,
exactly.
you can try and be so big, but actually quality and luxury and community over,
Mm,
it's at the forefront of my business. It's a big passion.
I love
I'm
that. And
pleasure.
that's why it works so well. That's why, people keep coming back, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, you won't have seen the beautiful sweater. So you're going to have to go over to YouTube to see the little video clip of the sweater if you want to see what I'm talking about. But you and I are collaborating for International Women's Day, and we will be creating content. We will be sharing each other's messages on both our websites. So keep an eye out for our social media on what the sort of exact collaboration is. But it's essentially combining our two passions of aging strong with the power of self-love and giving women the platform to not just feel better about themselves, but actually remind themselves how amazing they are.
Absolutely. Listen, we've got to be here to shout about ourselves from the rooftops. Start loving yourself. I mean, we don't always find it that easy. Let's be honest. It's not. Every day is different.
Yeah, and that's the whole reason, isn't it? It's having a community like this around so that on the
Mm,
days when you don't feel great, you can tap into it. You know where to go. That's a
yeah.
thing. So I thought we would kind of end the episode with a bit of just a kind of, I thought it'd be a cool question to ask you. So I'd love to hear if you had one piece of advice for a woman feeling invisible after 40, what would that be if you could give them one piece of advice?
My advice would be just because we're aging doesn't mean we have to shrink. We don't have to. Do you know, there's an old saying, isn't there? Like, grow old gracefully. I think that was something my nan used to say. I always think of Catherine Tate when I think of this because who wants to grow old gracefully? Let's be honest. All I would say is keep healthy, keep
Yeah.
checking in on yourself, be kind to yourself, and just do the things that you've been putting off, which is links with my hoodie drop tomorrow. I just thought I'd add that in. You know,
Love that.
do it anyway. Whatever you're scared of doing, don't put it off. Challenge yourself and do it anyway, because you'll never regret doing it, but you'll always regret not doing it. And that's the
Exactly. Oh,
biggest piece of
that's
advice.
good. That's so, so good. I love that. That is a wonderful note to end on. And actually, the other thing I was going to say was I will add links to our collaboration pages and to our social media and everything below this episode in the show notes and in YouTube in the description. So go and check that out. But I want to know, so if you could give someone a motivational quote or a feeling to wear for the day, what would you put on your sweater today?
Well, I have one that has been the top seller and it's my favorite one. Little bit of something that I have struggled with in the past, and that is just show up consistently. I think, if you are consistent with what your goals are and what you really want to get out of life, you will make it.
Yeah.
I think it's not easy to stay consistent, but showing up for yourself, you're not doing it for anybody else, you're doing it for you. And that's really important.
I love that. You and I are so aligned. Like literally everything we just said. Like I bang on about consistency more than I bang on about protein, but
Yeah.
consistency doesn't mean perfection. And I think that's something that as well as women we tend to forget, because consistency can mean doing one thing, one tiny thing, whereas we tend to think it has to be the biggest thing for it to make a difference, but it doesn't.
Oh, no, actually, and that's something that I was going to say. If you manage one positive thing in a
Yeah.
day off of your list that you really wanted to get done and you don't get the other 5 things done, then you need to pat yourself on the back for it,
That's it.
I do need to start practicing that myself, though.
It made me laugh though, because so Nessa sent me a reel last night about this business owner saying, "Oh, didn't answer these emails, didn't respond to this and this and this, just to create a piece of content that would get 17 likes, 4 whatever, and then 20 unfollows." And it made me laugh because I had a list as long as my arm yesterday of stuff that I need to do. And in the end, I think I answered a few emails and I made a reel.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, no, but this is important. This is an important piece of content, and then you think to yourself, it's crazy. But I did give myself a pat on the back. So
Good.
we need to
Well,
do
if
that
it
more.
makes you feel better, I spent about 3 hours trying to edit a video that I didn't like. And what we spoke about, I am going to be going on and doing a reel, just talking about, guys, tap the button, show it some love.
Hit the
It's the only way we
button,
can
leave
grow
the
on
comment,
social media.
stop lurking,
Yeah.
right?
Stop doom scrolling and
Don't be
tap
a doom
like.
scroller or a lurker. No one likes that. Well, since both our brands are very community focused, I thought I would ask you guys, so if you're listening to this, I know you're watching this on YouTube, I want you to let us know in the comments, what's the one word that you want to wear on your chest today? Let us know in the comments. And I want to know the answer from you as well. What's the one word you want to wear on your chest today?
Me, just self-love per se. Self-love, because it covers
Love
such a
it.
huge scope, isn't it, of meaning, just love yourself. That's just the biggest word you can say.
That sums it up. That sums
What
it
about
up.
you? What would yours be?
My word is grateful, because
Yeah.
I'm immensely grateful for you coming onto this episode. It's been an absolute dream. You're my first guest on the podcast, so thank you for,
Loved it.
being the first guest. And it's an absolute, I'm setting the bar real high. So, but yeah, just grateful, and really grateful for my beautiful MMB40 merch, and grateful that you and I get to collaborate. So yeah, just in general, really grateful, and also really grateful that it's Friday today. Well,
Yes, 100%.
so yeah, it's all good. Thank you so much for joining me, Nessa. It's been an absolute dream.
You.
And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, on Spotify, click the like button, subscribe, and on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to the channel as well. Let us know your word in the comments. We'd love to know. And we will see you in the next episode, and keep an eye out for our collaboration for International Women's Day. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.